My name is Heather Pugh, as Dr. Knox said. Going for a yearly medical is something that I've always found was very important, and I religiously did so. In September of 2007, I went for my physical. I had a cold and was a little bit run down, and my physician said not to do my blood work until I was feeling a bit better. I'm type 2 diabetic also. I was losing a bit of weight and feeling tired, but I just started a new job that I was really loving, so I thought that, that's why I was losing the weight. I finally got around to doing my blood work in December, and my physician called me and told me that my hemoglobin was very low, to take some iron and repeat it in a week. A week later, my hemoglobin had dropped, and I was now in the 80s in my hemoglobin. So she was quite concerned, and she referred me to a hematologist who ran a battery of tests, including a bone marrow biopsy. And of course, I started right away thinking I had leukemia. Everything came back negative, and he was frankly quite stumped and would start to say something and then would shake his head. He was really baffled at what was wrong. By February, still no diagnosis, I was at my family visiting, and they said to me, you've got that nagging cough since Christmas. Would you go back and have them check out what that's about? I wasn't concerned about the cough at all. It was just a bit of a tickle. Went back to my family physician, and she said she was going to order a chest CT. That day she called me and told me that there was a bit of necrotic tissue showing at the very bottom of the CT, and she wanted me to go back right away and have an abdominal CT. And the abdominal CT, I had made it back to the office when my physician called me and told me to come back to the office and bring my husband. So I worked in doctor's offices, and I knew that that was not good. I knew I had cancer, the big word. At that time, I just didn't know of what. I met my husband at the doctor's office, and she told me that I had a mass on my kidney, and I said, "You mean cancer?" And she said, "Yes." She booked me already to see the urologist for the very next morning, and when I arrived there, Dr. Spodek in Centenary, he was wonderful, and he explained everything to us. I had my list of questions prepared. I like to be educated and up on things. But I took laparoscopic surgery off of the question list when I found out my tumor was over 15 centimeters. I was booked right away for a left open radical nephrectomy. Before I went in for surgery, the urologist called me back in again and told me I would have to have my kidney embolized, which I hadn't read about, which basically is shutting off the blood flow or killing the kidney before they remove it to prevent blood loss. I was okay with that until he told me I had to be awake. Then I became a really big chicken. And then it was all too much for me. That was the first time I ever cried. I would also have to have a blood transfusion as my hemoglobin was too low for surgery. So I was admitted to hospital the day before, which was March 17th. And I had my blood transfusion. The next day, they took me down to have my kidney embolized. The surgeons there, the radiologist, was really fantastic. They were made an incision at the top of my leg and inserted these, what looked to me, really long wires up through the vein in my leg, and then put a bit of current, and it would make this funny little noise and spin, and it was supposed to shut off the blood flow. It took 11 wires before the blood flow was finally shut off. But I love medicine. I thought it was fascinating until the cramping started, which turned thereafter into really bad pain. So by then I wasn't afraid of the surgery. I was begging for it. They wheeled me in and did my surgery. The surgeon told me that they opened me up and removed a piece of my rib, and then they had to call in another surgeon to assist with removing the bowels from the top of my kidney. A lot of it seemed to be attached a little more than it should have been, so he was concerned about that. Everything went pretty well. They took out the large tumor with the kidney, of course, and some adrenal glands and the piece of rib, and off I went to recovery. The next day I was up in my room. I honestly don't really remember much about it. Pain management was very good. I was on a spinal block, but I was having difficulty breathing. I seemed to be really shallow breathing, and when I would fall asleep, I would feel like I was stopping breathing, and it would wake me up. And I told the nurses, and they told me, "You're on heavy doses of morphine, you've had major surgery, and this is what it was from." So I figured that's what it was. But it got to the point where I told my husband to stay with me and watch me while I slept to make sure I didn't stop breathing. a couple of nurses later, and the nurse said to me, you know what, I'm going to take your vitals while you're falling asleep. And it turned out my heart rate was down to 27 beats per minute, and they rushed and had a ECG and a chest x-ray done in my room. And then I was rushed for a CT scan where they found multiple pulmonary embolisms in my lungs. So that's the reason I was having trouble breathing. So I was rushed to CCU, and my 6-day stay in hospital turned into 13. So I was pretty anxious to get out of the hospital. By the time I was released, 13 days doesn't seem like much to a lot of people, but I think because I was told 6, I kept waiting for the next day, the next day, the next day, and it seemed torturous to me to still be in there in my glass room, unable to use the bathroom in private. I was glad to get home for my daughter's 14th birthday, and then I remained off work for 10 weeks, and that's when I started researching on the internet, which is good and bad because I found Kidney Cancer Canada, but at the same time I was obsessing about cancer. That's all I talked about, that's all I read, that's all I studied. So I needed to go back to work. But I did really find chatting with others at Kidney Cancer Canada so helpful, and I wanted to know why I had cancer, will it come back? And I was always trying to find somebody with the same stage of cancer. I was, as Dr. Knox said, stage 3B. So, you know, the statistics are very scary. So when you speak to other people that are surviving and haven't had it recur, it's a bit of a reassurance. I was referred to Princess Margaret from my urologist in Centenary Hospital because there was a study for Sudent to see if it would prevent the renal cell carcinoma from coming back, but unfortunately because of my blood clots in my lungs, I wasn't able to be in that study. Fortunately or not, I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe it was fortunate because I'm healthy and I still don't have my cancer recur yet. And touch wood, hopefully not ever. I keep up with Kidney Cancer Canada, and I go to the meetings to be up on the treatment in case it does come back. And most of all, because I found the mental battle at certain stages, mostly a year after surgery, that mentally I found it really tough, and the support of the people there was fantastic. My last scan was in January, and it was clear. And March 18th is 2 years since I had my surgery. And yes, I do call myself a kidney cancer survivor. I don't like the word patient. And thanks to everyone at KCC for their support, especially Deb and Tony. Thank you.